The Tories Albo was referring to, and against whom his animosity seems to have only slightly diminished, are not really Tories, whatever they are, but fellow Australians. Many of them would have been the taxpayers who funded the social housing in which he so proudly grew up with his struggling single mum. It's a sad truth that whenever Albo mentions his humble beginnings, it's always in the context of the underdog defying low expectations, which is true, but never with gratitude for those whose hard work paid for the social housing that saved him from growing up literally on the streets instead. I mean, some of these taxpayers might have been Tories, for goodness sake. That this sense of victimhood exists at all in a prosperous country like Australia might be dispiriting, but the source of it is so distant from the otherwise happy nation that Albo leads that it's downright hilarious. The creator of the post-industrial victimhood that Albo perpetuates is none other than a rambling German philosopher from London in the 19th century called Karl Marx. Marx manipulated observations of the conditions in early industrialised Britain to create the false idea that capitalism was based on the ruthless exploitation of workers. In his best-selling book, Intellectuals, British writer Paul Johnson says Marx used the conditions observed in pre-industrial businesses like pottery, dressmaking, blacksmiths, baking and lace manufacturing as proof of a new class of victim, the worker. In truth, he was writing about these occupations a full 20 years after they had been replaced by steel factories, machine manufacturers and coal mines as the main source of employment. It was at this moment that the myth of the exploited worker took hold, and it continues today. Johnson writes, quote, "From the very dawn of the Industrial Revolution, the most efficient manufacturers who had ample access to capital habitually favoured better conditions for their workforce. Conditions improved, and because conditions improved, the workers failed to rise as Marx predicted they would." Unquote. They still haven't. But that doesn't stop people like Albo and the modern union movement hoping they will. ACTU President Sally McManus said in 2018 that the benefits of Australian workers enjoy today were won by, quote, "our parents, grandparents and great-grandparents taking non-violent so-called illegal industrial action," unquote. Actually, they were won mostly by bosses understanding that a business with unhappy employees is not as profitable as it could be. Prosperity is won from collaboration, not the antagonism, victimhood and militancy that so many people on the left subscribe to, along with their sexual preferences and immutable ethnicity. Ordinary Australians can see through this even without knowing the history behind it because it's just common sense. And if Menzies' forgotten people identify with anything, it's common sense.